Hello everyone, my name is Serafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Dragon Link. Dragon Link is a deck that has historically been very good in Master Duel. However, with the advent of a ban list a while ago, a lot of people have stopped playing the deck because of the removal of one of the most important cards in the deck, which was the Wyvern Blaster, the light dragon that you could special summon from your hand for free. Without that, the deck struggles a lot to access the light engine, so the deck is more focused on dark dragons now, which makes it more of a rocket-focused deck, which is more interesting to me, and less of a chaos-focused deck, especially with Chaos Ruler no longer being in the game either. But this is a deck that a lot of people have fondness for, and I believe I found a variant of the deck that functions just fine, and I want to show it to you guys. So let's take a look. For the hand traps, we are playing 2 copies of Psyframe Gear Gamma and 1 copy of Psyframe Driver. Psyframe Gear Gamma is a level 2 Psychic Tuner monster. It's light, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by any card effect. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control no monsters, as a quick effect you can special summon both this card from your hand and 1 Psyframe Driver from your hand, deck, or graveyard. If you do, negate that activation, and if you do that, destroy that monster. During the end phase, banish the face-up monster special summoned by this effect. Psyframe Gear Gamma is an excellent way to deal with your opponent's threats, while also allowing you to easily access either a Link 2 or a level 8 Synchro monster, such as Psyframe Lord Omega. So, Psyframe Gear Gamma, just an excellent extra form of interaction, really good at dealing with maxi rips during the beginning of your turn, can be very useful to clear your opponent's board at the end of their turn. Just an overall good card, and it's also important to have in the deck for your crossout designator. We're playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler. During your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, and negate the effects of that monster while it is face up until the end of the turn. It's just a good card. When you play Bystials, you definitely want Effect Veiler, as it gives you an extra body in the graveyard, and it's just a generically easy to access card, level 1 light. Good enough. 3 copies of Max C. Max C is extremely useful for Bystial decks because it allows us to draw more forms of interaction during our opponent's turn. 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. When your opponent activates a card or effect that would draw, special summon, or mill, you get to negate that effect, but you do not destroy the card, once per turn only. Ash Blossom is an important card to have for Called by the Grave. It allows you to disrupt your opponent and stop some dangerous plays. This card is a card that I would imagine most decks want to run at 3, and this deck is no exception. Nibiru the Primal Being. During the main phase, if your opponent normal or special summoned 5 or more monsters this turn, during either player's turn as a quick effect, you contribute as many face-up monsters on the field as possible. If you do, special summon this card from your hand, then special summon 1 Primal Being token to your opponent's side of the field with the attack and defense points combined of all the monsters tributed for this effect. You can only use this effect once per turn. Nibiru is an interesting card. It is very important to have this card in the deck, so that you can negate it with Crossout Designator. It's also a really good way to stop decks that flood the field, although Max C does a very good job of this in the OCG and Master Duel. It's a card that's a lot more important than the TCG because we don't have Max C, but it's definitely a way for you to interact with your opponent that's not necessarily negative. The main problem with Nibiru as opposed to other hand traps is that it's level 11, which makes it a lot harder to use in your hand if you don't have a good situation. Yeah, I can summon Max C and use it as link material. I can't summon Nibiru without tributing 2 monsters. Now, there are some situations where tributing 2 monsters might be beneficial to you, but those are few and far between, and they will not happen on the first turn. So, yeah. It's a good card, but I wouldn't run it in more than 1. And then Called by the Grave and Crossout Designator, both of these cards are designed to negate hand traps that are used against you, and they are solid. Okay, for the main deck dragon monsters, we have Black Metal Dragon. This is a level 1 dark dragon monster with 600 attack points and 600 defense points. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Red Eyes card from your deck to your hand. That is not once per turn. So you will summon your Black Metal Dragon and you will link it off into your Striker Dragon, which will trigger the effect. And you can even use Black Metal Dragon to chain block to protect your Striker Dragon so that you can make sure that you draw your Sector launch. Black Metal Dragon will draw you Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, or if you already have Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, you can also draw your Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. So this is a very strong card, and we played it 3 for that reason. Next up, we have Rocket Tracer. This is a level 4 Dragon Tuner monster. As a quick effect, you can target one face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon one Rocket monster from your deck except Rocket Tracer. Also, you cannot special summon monster from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Dark monsters. Now, this was a very detrimental effect previously. However, with the introduction of SP Little Knight, Rocket Tracer's Dark Locking is not nearly as negative. You can build a board that has a lot of disruption even if you are Dark Locked. We're not going to be playing Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess in this deck, and that's fine. Appaloosa is a good card, but it is not a card that you necessarily want to make in a Dark deck anyway. And we have other options. Rocket Recharger. This is a Dark Dragon monster. It is level 4. If a Dark monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, target one of those destroyed monsters, and special summon a Dark monster from your graveyard with a different original name than the targeted monster. So, Rocket Recharger allows you to pitch it to revive a monster that was not the monster that was destroyed, including itself. It's a very interesting card, and it does a lot of work for you. While you control a Dark monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. That's cute, but it's not really that relevant. Okay, so Recharger has a lot of synergy with Striker Dragon. We'll get to that in a minute. Next up, we have Starliege Seifert. This is a light monster. It is level 4 with 800 attack points. You can send any number of dragon monsters from your hand or field to the graveyard. Add one dragon monster from your deck to your hand whose level is equal to the total original monsters of those levels sent to the graveyard. So this card is particularly useful to use with your Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. You can special summon Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon no problem, but you can also pitch it with your Seifert to draw any of your level 6 Bestial monsters, which are hand traps, much more effective at dealing with your opponent than just a body on the board. So Seifert gives you some options for how you want to use the cards in your deck, and that's very beneficial to you. You can also pitch one of your two of your level 4s to draw, for example, your Chaos Dragon Levianeer. You can pitch your Chaos Dragon Levianeer to draw your Bestial Lubellion. You have lots of ways to use Starliege Seifert, which is very, very useful to you. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target one level 8 light or dark dragon monster in your graveyard, and add it to your hand. Now, there are very few options in this deck for this particular effect. Mostly, it's just the Bestial Lubellion or Chaos Dragon Levianeer. You can also put your Borreload Savage Dragon back in your extra deck if you want to, but that effect is not going to be something that you're going to be particularly excited about unless you really need to use Levianeer's effect twice, which is a very long game indeed. Rocket Caliber. This is a level 4 tuner monster with 1700 attack points and 100 defense points. You can special summon this card from your hand to your zone a Dark Link monster points to. That is very useful to you. Sadly, your Striker Dragon does not point to a zone that you would be able to special summon to because it points to the left, but you could special summon, for example, your Delingerous Dragon or your Triple Burst Dragon and then special summon to that zone. So that's useful. You contribute this card to special summon one Dark Dragon or Machine monster from your hand except Rocket Caliber. All of your Bestial monsters can be summoned normally. In addition to that, you can also special summon your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon with this effect, and that is extremely beneficial. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon would already require you to send a card from your field away, but it normally banishes that card. By having Rocket Caliber tribute itself instead, now you have a monster in your graveyard instead of being banished, which means that Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon has more targets to impact with its effect. That's very beneficial to you. So yeah, Rocket Caliber is an insane card. Only need one though. Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. This is a level 6 monster. You can send one level 5 or higher normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can increase its level by 1. Okay, That's a really good effect. So you get to special summon this card for free, and you pitch your Psyframe Driver, which allows you to have a light monster in your graveyard to banish for your Bestial cards, and a light monster you don't care about, especially. And even if you have your Psyframe Gamma can special summon it from the graveyard, so it's not like it's impacting you at all to mill this card. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to add a Red Eyes Fusion, which we don't have, so that's not a relevant effect. But regardless, this is a free extender, and you can pitch it, as I said, with your Starly Safer to get a Bestial Lubellion, so pretty nice. Alright. For the Bestials, we have Magnemite, Saronir, Druiswurm, and Baldrake, along with the Lubellion. All Bestial monsters have the same effect except for Lubellion, which is, as a quick effect, you can banish a light or dark monster in either graveyard and special summon this card. It's only a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster, otherwise you can only do it on your turn. And then they all have an effect after that. Magnemite lets you add a dragon monster from your deck to your hand during the end phase. That is crazy in a deck where all of your cards are dragons. You can use this to draw another Bestial. If you're going to go into your opponent's turn, you want some disruption. If you're going into your turn, you can use it to draw your Black Metal Dragon so that you have a starter. You can use it to draw your Bestial Lubellion so that you have more search. You can use it to draw your Chaos Dragon Levianeer so you can make an explosive play. You can use it to draw your Rocket Tracer so that you can make a Synchro Summon. You can do literally anything with this card. It's insane that this card exists at all. Even though it's only at 1, it is probably the best card in the deck, and it should be banned, honestly. Saronir, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can toss a branded monster or a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard. If you have your Lubellion, you can use Lubellion to activate Branded Beast, which lets you, during the end phase, target a branded continuous spell or trap in your graveyard and place it on your field. So you can Saronir, pitch your Branded Regain, and then Branded Beast can put it back on the field for you. So that's basically like you're doubling up on your Lubellion's effect to search counter spells and traps. Really, really nice. Druiswurm, if it's sent to the graveyard by any way, you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. That's really, really good, and it has a lot of synergy with IP Masquerena. So yes, this one is probably my favorite. Sadly, it's only at 1 as well, but definitely a good card. And then Baldrake lets you tribute any other light or dark monster you control to target a monster that was special summoned through a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link, and banish it once per turn. Really, really strong. And then finally, the Bestial Lubellion, you have to special summon it by tributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster, which can be your Meteor Black Dragon or your Darkness Metal Dragon. You can only special summon the Bestial Lubellion once per turn this way, and you can pitch this card from your hand to the graveyard. You can pitch this card from your hand to the graveyard, add one Bestial monster from your deck to your hand, and during your main phase, you can place one branded continuous spell or trap from your deck face up on the field. So, this effect can't be ashed because you are playing a card to the field instead of adding it to your hand, although you can ash the effect to draw a Bestial. Lubellion's a really good card. Play in defense mode, pass to your opponent. It's not going to be a problem for you at all. Next up, we have Abso Router Dragon. If you control a rocket monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Abso Router Dragon once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard from anywhere, you can add one rocket monster from your deck to your hand. So we have this card in the deck so that we can mill it with our Dragon Ravine, which will let us draw a rocket monster. Really, really strong. Chaos Dragon Levianeer cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 light and or dark monsters from your graveyard. When summoned this way, you can activate one of the following effects based on the attributes that you used for this card, but if you do, this card cannot attack this turn. If you banished all darks, you can shuffle one random card from your opponent's hand into their deck. If you banished all lights, you can special summon one monster from your graveyard in defense position, and if you banish both light and darks, you can destroy up to 2 cards on the field without targeting. All these effects are really good. You're almost never going to resolve the light one. The dark one is fine. The light and dark one is the most common and is the most impactful. Both really, really good. And then you'll just link your Chaos Dragon Levianeer off, and you can even revive it with your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon after you've already used the effect to get it to attack, because it's only while it's on the field that it can attack. If you link it off and then revive it, it's a completely different monster. So, very good. Speaking of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, you can special summon this card from your hand by banishing one face-up dragon monster you control. But you can normal summon it. You can normal summon this. Just saying. During your main phase, you can special summon one dragon monster from your hand or graveyard except Darkness Metal Dragon. You can only use this effect once per turn. Absolutely insane card. It's searchable by the Black Metal Dragon, so this card just makes all sorts of crazy plays. It's probably like one of the best dragon support cards ever. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that the Wyrm archetype was created, the Wyrm type was created solely because Darkness Metal Dragon exists. Like, they couldn't afford to keep printing dragons with this card in the game. So they were just like, okay, we are going to take all the cards that we are thinking of from now on that could be dragons and just make them Wyrms instead. And that was the end of that. For the staples in the deck, we have Harpy's Feather Duster, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. This is very important when Labyrinth running around, so yeah, just one card that will deal with any threats. 1 for 1, special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck by pitching a monster. This sets up your graveyard for your Bestials, and it also lets you special summon your Black Metal Dragon so you can start your combo. Really strong. Dragon Ravine, once per turn you can discard a card and then activate one of these effects. Send a dragon monster from your deck to the graveyard, which will almost always be your Absol Dragon, so you can draw a rocket. Solid. This gets added to your hand by Rockmails. Boot Sector Launch, all rocket monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense points. You can activate one of these effects per turn, special summon up to 2 rockets with different names from your hand and defense position, or if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon up to 2 rocket monsters from your graveyard, equal to the difference in the monsters that your opponent has versus the monsters you have. That's pretty good. And the Boot Sector Launch is a good way to just summon your Rocket Tracer, then pop the Boot Sector Launch to get an additional body on the field. So yes, you only need to use Boot Sector Launch basically one time. This card is drawn off of your Striker Dragon, and it's just another free extender. Branded Regain, if a light or dark monster is banished except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, place that monster on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw 1 card. Either player's deck, you can just banish if your opponent's monsters are banished, you can shuffle them back into the deck, and then you draw a card, which is really good. Once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target 1 bestial monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Insane. So this will let you bring back your Magnemite, get more searches. It'll let you bring back your Druid Worm so that you can get more control on the field. It'll let you bring back your Baldrake so that you contribute to banish. This is just a very good card. Getting free bodies from the graveyard without doing anything is really strong, and this will draw aggro from your opponent. Quick Launch, special summon a rocket monster from your deck, but it cannot attack, also destroy it during the end phase. Not once per turn. Crazy good card. Just pull out your Rocket Tracer, start your combo. And lastly, Branded Beast. Continuous trap once per turn during the main phase. If you control a bestial monster, you contribute any dragon, then target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. Monster, spell, or trap. Really, really good. Does target, but otherwise it's a solid effect. And you can do it once per turn, which is nice. During the end phase, you can target 1 branded continuous spell or trap in your graveyard, place it face up on your field. So again, if you have your Saronir, you can banish a card, special summon Saronir, tribute the Saronir for the Bestial Lubellion. Then Bestial Lubellion plays the Branded Beast. Saronir mills the Branded Regain. Branded Beast during the end phase plays Branded Regain from your graveyard. And then you have both effects active at the same time, which is really, really strong. Okay, for the extra deck, we have Psyframe Lord Omega. This is a level 8 light psychic monster. It requires 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuners. 2,800 attack points once per turn during the main phase. As a quick effect, you can banish both this face-up card from the field and 1 random card from your opponent's hand face-up until your next standby phase. Fantastic. This is a soft once per turn, which is why it is limited to 1. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target 1 banished card and return it to the graveyard. Either player's banished cards. This is also a really, really good effect because you banish a lot of cards for your bestial monsters. So if you don't want to use the hand rip effect on your turn, you can wait, return one of your cards to your graveyard, and then during the main phase of your opponent's turn, rip a card out of their hand. So, just a solid option. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 other card in the graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard into the deck. Amazing. So it gets you more extension. It just lets you put a card like one of your Absol Dragons back in the deck so that you can then mill it again with your Dragon Ravine and keep going. So yeah, Omega, just a solid card overall. You can make it with your Psyframe Gear Gamma and your Psyframe Driver, which is the intention, and if that's just a free body along with a negate, then it's not the worst thing in the world. It's amazing. Next up, we have Borreload Savage Dragon. This is a dark dragon monster with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense. Level 8 requires 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner. If this card is synchro summoned, you can equip 1 link monster from your graveyard to this card. If you do, place Borrel counters on this card equal to that link monster's link rating. Borreload Savage Dragon gains attack equal to half the attack of the monster equipped to it by this effect. When your opponent activates a card or effect as a quick effect, you can remove 1 Borrel counter from this card and negate the activation, but you do not destroy the card. You can only use this effect once per turn. Okay. So Savage Dragon is a card that It's basically an Omni Negate, but it doesn't destroy cards, which means that it's not that good against continuous spells or field spells. However, it is a very useful card to deal with monster effects, and you can also use it to protect yourself from cards like Lightning Storm. Now, it's important to note that Savage Dragon has because it's an equipped card, it's weird. If your opponent negates its effects, like for example, if they imperm, then the equipped card is removed from the field. So the Savage Dragon loses all the Boral counters permanently, the equipped card goes back to your graveyard, and you lose all your attack points. So even though it's only until the end of the turn, Savage Dragon has essentially been turned off just by an imperm or an effect failure. Something you have to keep in mind. But otherwise, it's a really, really good card, and it's really easy to make. You make it with your Rocket Tracer or your Rocket Caliber and your Rocket Recharger. Great. Bystial Dispater. Level 10, 3500 attack, 3500 defense, Dark Dragon, 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner dragon monsters. You can target one banished light or dark monster from either player's banished zone and special summon it to your field. When your opponent activates a monster effect, as a quick effect, you can target one banished card, shuffle it into the deck, then if you shuffle it into your deck, destroy the monster. If you shuffle it into your opponent's deck, negate the effect. So that's really, really funny. It's either an Ash Blossom effect, where the effect is negated but the monster is not destroyed, or it's a Ghost Spell effect, where the monster is destroyed but the effect is not negated. Both those effects are very, very useful to you. So, but you have to choose. You have to choose which one you want to activate. And really, really interesting card. Bystial Dispater makes it really easy to extend because you can special summon any monster that you banish, which can be one of your Bystial monsters or one of your rockets. Solid card. And Dispater is easy to make. You just use a rocket tuner monster and one of your Bystial monsters. Next up, we have Hieratic Dragon King of Atum. This requires 2 level 6 dragon monsters specifically. 2400 attack, 2100 defense. It is light. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, special summon 1 dragon monster from your deck, and make its attack and defense points 0. This card cannot attack during the turn you activate this effect. So, this card is very awkward. You can't use it after you've played Rocket Tracer's effect because it's dark monsters. It's darkly locking you. And primarily the way that you make this card is just by using 2 Bystial monsters. And you could be Link summoning if you did that. So what is really the point of Hieratic Dragon of King of Atum? Well, it lets you get out your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon or your Black Metal Dragon to search your Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. The effect of the monster that you special summon is not negated. It is just its attack and defense points become 0. So there are a lot of really good options. You can special summon your Abserator Dragon and then link it off, which would allow you to draw a rocket monster. You can special summon your Darkness Metal Dragon and just special summon from the graveyard again, go into like a Link 3, a Link 4. Atum just makes it really, really easy for you to get lots of cards on the field, and you don't really have a whole lot of uses for your Bystials otherwise. So I do like this option. Guard Dragon Pisty, Link 1, 1000 attack points, 1 level 4 or lower dragon monster. You cannot special summon monsters except dragon monsters as long as Guard Dragon Pisty is on the field. That is not a lock, it's just you have to link it off first. During your main phase, you can target one of your banished monsters you can target one of your dragon monsters that is banished from your graveyard, special summon it to your zone that 2 or more of your Link monsters point to at the same time. You can only use this effect once per turn, and you can only special summon Guard Dragon Pisty once per turn. Great! This is a really good card. Now, you will notice that you have the Pisty, the Delindrus Dragon, the Romulus, and the Triple Burst Dragon in the extra deck. That is 3 rare monsters and 1 neutral rarity monster in your extra deck. That saves you so much dust. You are making this deck on the cheap. Yes, you do have a lot of hand traps, but look at the main deck too. 1 neutral rarity, 3 rares, another rare, another neutral, and then another rare. So yeah, this deck makes good use out of cheap rarity cards. So just wanted to highlight that real quick. Pisty, you will use to special summon a monster from your graveyard to go into your Boral End Dragon. So you will use this card along with your Triple Burst Dragon, which is a Link 3, to summon another monster from your graveyard. Then it's a 3, a 1, and another 1, and that gives you 3 effect monsters that add up to 5. So, Pisty, good card. Make sure that you use it properly. We'll see that in the replay. Alright, next up is the Striker Dragon. It requires 1 level 4 or lower dragon monster. if this card is Link Summon, you can draw a Boot Sector Launch. Amazing. You can target one face-up monster you control and one rocket monster in your graveyard, destroy the monster on the field, and if you do, add the other monster from the graveyard to the hand. So, how this works. Striker Dragon will destroy itself to add Rocket Recharger to your hand. Then Rocket Recharger's effect activates. If a dark monster that was special summoned from your extra deck is destroyed by battle or card effect, you discard the Rocket Recharger, target the Striker Dragon, and then summon any dark monster from your graveyard with a different original name from the targeted monster. So you can bring back, for example, your Boral End Dragon, maybe your Borreload Savage Dragon, or your Bestial Despoter. You can bring back the Rocket Recharger itself so that you can get a non-tuner body on the field. Your possibilities are endless, you just can't summon Striker Dragon. So yeah, it's a really good combo, and this card just is the way that you can make the deck work with a minimal rocket engine. Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. This is a light monster, so you cannot summon it after you have Dark Locked yourself with Rocket Tracer. Link 2 requires 2 dragon monsters, 0 attack points. Once per opponent's turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, as a quick effect, you contribute 1 monster from your hand or your field. Return 1 face-up card on the field to the hand. Return 1 face-up card on the field to the hand. This effect does not target, and it bounces. That is rare. So, your opponent can respond to the activation of seals, but if they do not remove the card they want, to keep from their field or in response, you can choose a different card. It's like, I have to explain non-targeting every single time, and I don't know why. I just want to make it clear that this is not a card that you can go like, oh, I'll just chain to him choosing my monster by activating its effect or removing it from the field or doing something else. No. If you do that, your opponent will simply get to choose a different card to bounce. So, Seals is just a really good card. It's really well worded, and it's a dangerous effect. If this card is tributed, special summon 1 dragon monster from your hand or deck and make its defense points 0 and attack points. That is a mandatory effect. Does not miss timing. So, you will tribute your Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. Maybe you special summon your Rocket Tracer so that you can pop something and draw a card. Maybe you special summon your Red MD for next turn. Maybe you special summon your Black Metal Dragon so that you can float. Possibilities are endless, but basically anything from your deck comes out and protects you. This is a good card. Dragunity Knight Romulus requires 2 dragon and or winged beast monsters. If this card is link summoned, you can add 1 Dragon Ravine from your deck to your hand. Perfect. Delindrous Dragon requires 2 dark dragon monsters, 1600 attack points. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can target 1 attack position monster your opponent controls that did not declare an attack this turn, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack points. Now, that might seem like a stretch. Why would your opponent not attack with a monster if you have Delindrous Dragon on the field? Well, you can banish one of your opponent's monsters with SP Little Knight. And if you do that, it comes back during the end phase, and it could not declare an attack that turn, so then Delindrous Dragon gets to destroy it, and your opponent takes damage equal to its original attack points. So Delindrous Dragon has great synergy with SP Little Knight. It's actually really funny. If a rocket monster is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Excellent. That's an easy way for you to link climb. IP Masquerena. This requires 2 non-link monsters, link 2 with 800 attack points. During your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can immediately after this effect resolves, link summon 1 link monster using materials you control, including this card. It says materials you control, but for some reason that does not mean that you cannot make Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. I don't know why. Even as a judge, I genuinely think this card is very confusingly worded. I understand that you can make Goddess, but I don't know why you can make Goddess when it clearly says materials you control. Regardless. You can only use this effect of IP Masquerena once per turn. A link monster that uses this card's material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, so you will usually use this card to make your SP Little Knight, and then trigger its effect to banish one of your opponent's cards. And that's really good. Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy requires 2 monsters, including 1 dark monster, always treated as a familiar possessed card. You can target 1 dark monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a zone your card points to, and if this link summoned card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect while it's in the owner's monster zone, you can add 1 dark monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Gloomy is a solid card. You will use it to bring back one of your opponent's monsters. Maybe you link it into your SP Little Knight or your IP Masquerena, or maybe you will just use it to go into your Boral End Dragon because you need another body. Just good. SP Little Knight requires 2 effect monsters, 1600 attack points. It has arrows that point to the left and right, so if you put it in the extra monster zone, you cannot link summon anything else unless you use SP Little Knight as material. If this card is Link Summon using a Fusion, Synchro, Exceeds, or Link monster as material, you can target one card on the field or in either graveyard and banish it. Also, your monsters can attack directly this turn. That's a rough restriction, but it does allow you to get out of some sticky situations. You don't have to activate this effect, so if you make this card on turn 1, for its second effect, you can just pass, even if your opponent has a card in the graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect as a quick effect, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including a monster you control, and banish both until the end phase. So SP Little Knight can either banish herself to maybe take one of your opponent's monsters out so that they can't use the benefit of the card, or if they activate a card like Dark Hole or Lightning Storm, you can use SP Little Knight to banish 2 of your monsters, and then even though they can't protect you this turn, they couldn't protect you anyway if they got destroyed, but they come back at the end of the turn, which means your opponent is now under pressure to actually kill you. So SP Little Knight is very versatile. It has a lot of good use cases of, it protects your board from being cleared, and it also interferes with your opponent's cards, while also banishing cards they control. Just overall, really, really solid option, and it's just great to have. Triple Burst Dragon requires 2 or more monsters except tokens. Link 3 Dark Dragon with 2400 attack points. Once per turn during the damage step, when a spell or trap card or a monster effect is activated, you can negate the activation. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing. During your main phase, except the turn this card with Special Summon, you contribute this card to target one Link 2 or lower monster in the graveyard, Special Summon it, then you can Special Summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand. None of that matters. The only reason that you play Triple Burst Dragon is because it points downward and Pisty points rightward, so you can summon a monster to the zone that Pisty and Triple Burst point to, and then link them all together into your Borderland Dragon. Speaking of Borderland Dragon, Link 5, 3500 attack points, requires 3 or more effect monsters. Cannot be destroyed by battle, cannot be destroyed by card effects, also neither player can target this card with monster effects. That is crazy amounts of protection. It's almost unaffected. Not quite, but almost. Can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. As a quick effect, you can target one effect monster on the field, one rocket monster in your graveyard, negate the effects of that monster on the field, and if you do, special summon the other monster from the graveyard. Your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. That is dumb. That is really, really dumb. It lets you negate monster effects, all of them, and your opponent can't respond to it. This means that unlike a card like Effect Veiler, where you don't want to activate Effect Veiler preemptively, you want to wait till your opponent declares an activation so that you can chain to it, Borderland Dragon can just negate a monster effect, and then your opponent doesn't even have to, before they've activated it. So your opponent can't even activate the card without it already being negated, because they can't respond to you saying this card is just a vanilla now. And the negate is permanent, unlike Effect Veiler and Imperm. So, insane card. I can't believe they gave us a card that negates card effects without allowing for interaction. That's just really, really dumb. Then it also brings back a rocket, which is insane, and we'll see that in the replay. Okay, and can attack every monster your opponent controls once each, which is also, you shouldn't underestimate that. That's a really good effect. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the replay. All right, so we're going first, and our hand is Effect Veiler, Black Metal Dragon, Rocket Tracer, and 2 Bestial monsters. Let's see what we can do. We'll start by summoning the Black Metal Dragon and link it into the Striker Dragon. Striker Dragon draws us the Boot Sector Launch. Black Metal Dragon draws us the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Now we activate Bestial Dragon Magnamet's effect. We banish the Black Metal Dragon from the graveyard, special summon the Magnemite, activate its effect. During the end phase, we will draw any dragon from our deck. Link these two off into the Dragoonini Knight Romulus. Romulus's effect, we draw the Ravine. Now we activate Ravine, and we're going to have to discard a card to send in Absterata Dragon from the deck to the graveyard. I don't have many options here. I do decide that I want to keep the Effect Veiler, so I'm going to pitch the Baldrake instead. Mill the Absterata, Absterata draws the Rocket Recharger. Now we will activate our Boot Sector Launch and use this effect to special summon the 2 rocket monsters from our hand. Then we activate Rocket Tracer's effect. We destroy the field spell to special summon the 3rd rocket monster from our deck. Now we can activate Rocket Caliber's effect and tribute its cell to special summon the Darkness Metal Dragon. We link the Rocket Tracer off into the Guard Dragon Pisty. This is important. You have to link into Pisty while Dragoonini Knight Romulus is still on the field, because if you make the Triple Burst first, it's going to point downwards instead of to the left, and then you will have to summon Pisty to that zone, and they won't point to each other. So you special summon Pisty to the zone that Dragoon Knight Romulus points to, then you change the zones that Romulus points to so that you can then have two monsters pointing to the same zone. It's pretty complicated, but it makes sense if you do it a few times. We make the Triple Burst Dragon. Now we can use Pisty's effect, and we bring back the Black Metal Dragon from the Banish Zone, and link the Link 3, the Link 1, and the Link 1 together into the Link 5 Boral End Dragon. Then we activate Black Metal Dragon's effect to draw the Meteor Dragon, and we will use Darkness Metal to special summon the Rocket Tracer from the graveyard. Boral End Dragon, negate Rocket Tracer, revive the Rocket Recharger, and now we can synchro those two monsters into our Borreload Savage Dragon. Borreload Savage Dragon equips the Link 3 from the graveyard. Now it gains 1200 attack points, so it has 4200 attack points, and it has 3 counters, so we get 3 Omni Negates, only once per turn though. Black Meteor Dragon special summon itself, and we will link these two monsters off into our IP Masquerena. That will allow us to special summon the SP Little Knight during our opponent's turn, and we are going to draw our Bystial Druiswurm from the Magnemite. Now we have Druiswurm, which can banish a monster from our opponent's graveyard to special summon itself. IP Masquerena, which can link with the Druiswurm to make the SP Little Knight, and when Druiswurm leaves the field, we can target a special summon monster the opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. When SP Little Knight enters the field, we can banish a card our opponent controls. Boral End Dragon. Negate a monster's effects permanently, can't be responded to. Borreload Savage Dragon. Negate any card, and Effect Veiler, negate a monster's effects while on the field this turn. Pass to our opponent. Our opponent draws. They're going to activate Lost World. Now, Lost World is an interesting card, and I had to think a lot about whether I wanted to negate Lost World with the Borreload Savage Dragon. It does mean that all my monsters lose 500 attack points, and then if my opponent summons a monster, they get to special summon a token to my side of the field, and as long as I have that token, I cannot target monsters with card effects. So I took a look at my extra deck, and I thought, okay, if he summons a token to my side of the field, I will use IP Masquerade to link that token off into Dark the Dark Charmer. That was basically my only option. So I let it go. Which was correct, because he immediately follows up with Miscellaneous Saurus. This would make his monsters unaffected by activated effects this entire turn. I absolutely cannot let that happen, so I'm going to Savage Dragon that to negate. Now I do not have my Savage Dragon negate anymore. Now my opponent is going to banish the Miscellaneous Saurus to use its second effect and special summon an Animadorn Archosaur from the deck. Animadorn Archosaur activates its effect. We will Effect Veiler it. So our opponent does not get to search. The opponent does not special summon a token to my field for some reason, then they normal summon Scrap Raptor, and they try to move into the battle phase. So since they're trying to move into the battle phase, I will special summon Druiswurm to my side of the field, then I'll use IP Masquerena, make off, make SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight banish the normal summoned Scrap Raptor. Druiswurm send the Animadorn Archosaur to the graveyard. That does not destroy it. And then my opponent concedes. There you go. I still had the ability to go into the Boral End Dragon and negate another card, and my opponent just ran out of options. So this is the power of the Dragon Link deck. This is the power of a strategy that allows you to easily make multiple negates, set up a huge board, and also fill your graveyard with powerful monsters that you can recycle time and time again. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.